Alpha, are you okay? All right, buddy, come on. What's wrong?
No, nothing's wrong. It's just, I mean... I miss this phone.
Wait. What?
No, I really miss this phone.
This is precious. The tech enthusiast here has fallen in love with an old piece of tech.
You finished?
I don't get it. Why do you miss such an old phone? What about this iPhone 13 Pro Max you've been using is much better.
I mean, I miss the rounded edges,
This thing is uncomfortable to hold.
the notch,
Oh, come on. There's nothing wrong with the notch.
3D touch.
Okay, actually, yeah, that is a pretty good feature that's missing.
I mean, there's just so much about this phone that I missed, and I want to use this again. I really don't like using the 13 Pro Max anymore.
Well, hey, I mean, there's a lot of things that this does better than that. I mean, like, not only just promotion, but the cameras. We bought this because of the cameras. The cameras are amazing.
We don't use it any differently.
What are you talking about? We've got cinematic mode. We've got 4K Pro. Okay, yeah, we do use it the same.
You know what? I think I'm just gonna put my SIM card back in
Wait,
this.
no. Don't do this.
My SIM's back in this. Oh my goodness. I missed you so much. I never should have left. I'm sorry, iPhone XS Max.
People wanting to use older devices. I don't get it, right?
Oh, you just shut up and go work on something else. I mean, I'm busy reuniting with my old phone here.
Fine. Have fun with your old phone thing. Should have been pretty obvious in my review of the 13 Pro Max that there was a lot of things about it that I just wasn't a fan of. And I thought, okay, maybe these things I just don't exactly like. I'll get over them. Yeah, they're minor inconveniences, but hey, it's still a newer and better phone than the XS Max, so I should be enjoying my experience with it, right? I'll get over it eventually, right? Well, I hate to tell you this, guys, but no, actually I didn't. And I kid you not, I actually went back to my XS Max. I popped that SIM card out of my 13 Pro Max and have shoved it directly into the XS Max because honestly, I was not enjoying my experience with my 13 Pro Max. So that's what today's video is going to be about. Why did I go back to the XS Max? What convinced me to go back to my old phone? So the first primary reason why I wanted to go back, it actually had something to do with the 13 Pro Max's form factor. It's not for the same reason as two of my friends on the iTunes Fanboy podcast. The reason why they don't like it is because, well, the boxing form factor and the sheer size of their phones, they don't like the sheer size of it. I love big phones, guys, so the reason why I'm not a fan of the form factor is not because of its big size. It all has to do with the shape. I'm talking about the edges. When the iPhone 12 lineup was released, I was not a fan of the squared off edges. I didn't even like how they looked. Not only did I not like how the squared off edges looked, I knew they were going to be uncomfortable in the hand, and okay, with a case usually have some rounded corners, so okay, it makes it a little comfortable. However, I do not like keeping my phone in a case because it just adds even more unnecessary bulk. And I bought an expensive phone made of premium materials. Why am I covering those premium materials up in just a cheap rubberized plastic? It just doesn't make that much sense to me. You're paying a lot of money for premium materials. You should be able to feel those premium materials, and you don't get to with that case. So I basically only put it in the case every single time I go to my day job, and yeah, it doesn't allow me to feel those premium materials that I paid extra money for. So that's why I keep it uncased. But when it's uncased, I'm sorry, Apple, this squared off edge look, it has not worked. Ever since the 12 lineup came out, the squared off edge has never looked good, nor has it ever felt good. You should never have gone back to the squared off edges, Apple. So back with my XS Max with its rounded edges, oh, I can't begin to tell you how much better that phone feels in my hand. I'm serious, Apple never should have abandoned the squared off edges. I never liked the look of it, and they never should have abandoned it because it does not feel good in the hand. Well, my XS Max feels good in the hand. My second reason for wanting to go back to the iPhone XS Max is actually because I do not use the 13 Pro Max any differently than the XS Max. I talked about this in my vlog about how I felt like I had made a mistake and wanted to switch back to my XS Max, and I switched back to the XS Max. But in that vlog, vlog, I was talking about how basically I didn't use the 13 Pro Max any differently than I did the XS Max. When it comes to not my YouTube life, I don't use it any differently than the XS Max. And when it comes to the YouTube life, which is when I'm basically using that camera a lot, yeah, I actually do not use it any differently. I originally wanted the 13 Pro Max because of the camera features, including like the ProRes video and then the cinematic mode as well. But I found out that I just never ended up using that, and if I were to, then it would be so infrequent. Like these gadgets videos and other videos I do on other YouTube channels that I operate, they're basically just set the phone to 4K at 60 auto mode and, well, voila, just do a little color correction in Final Cut just to get the saturated colors that I really like. I do absolutely nothing different on that 13 Pro Max than I do with the XS Max. Sometimes I use the ultra wide, but that depends on which camera angle I need, and most of the time, I mean, okay, I am switching up a lot of sets here and there, but most of the time I never end up using that ultra wide unless it's a rare niche occasions. Most of my occasions are I've picked a set and I stand at that set. I never really need the ultra wide. So because of that, I found that I don't use that phone any differently. So why should I bother upgrading to a new phone that does literally everything the same when I currently have another phone that works just fine? Another reason why I wanted to go back to the XS Max is because it still has not dropped support yet. Because the XS Max has been my favorite phone ever, and I feel like I've abandoned it a little too early because it's still getting software updates. The battery life is still lasting me to the end of the day, albeit just barely. I'm willing to bet after I'm done with my video shoot today, I'm definitely going to have to plug it in. But for the most part, on my typical days when I'm not recording YouTube videos on my phone, it lasts me throughout the entire day. I still end it just above 10% battery, though I am actually looking into doing a battery swap on it because, yeah, it is a lot less than what it used to be day one. But then again, it's been a few years and I've used it heavily over those few years and it has served me well. So I think it's time for a new battery on it. But the point is, I want to keep that going because, well, it still has support and it's still my favorite phone. At some point, it's not going to get support from Apple and features are not going to work as well. So until that day happens, I want to continue using that iPhone because it's my favorite smartphone ever. I'm serious. The 13 Pro Max is not my favorite smartphone. It's an older phone that came out at the end of 2018. I do have one more reason left that I do want to talk about, but I actually have some other things that I need to talk about first, and it's because I want to save that last thing for, well, last. Is there anything that I am going to miss from that 13 Pro Max? Actually, primarily one thing about it I am definitely going to miss, at least as the daily driver. Now, I'm not getting rid of that phone, by the way. The 13 Pro Max is still staying because I paid a lot for it, and something tells me I think I might have just voided that contract with AT&T, so I'm going to end up paying the full price for that anyway, so I might as well keep the phone. I'm not selling it. And besides, I do use the extra camera features that my XS Max doesn't have on the occasion. It's not frequent enough to justify it as my daily driver, but it is a great camera for YouTubing, and I'm still going to continue using that for YouTubing. But as a personal daily driver, there is one feature about it that I am positive I know I'm going to miss. ProMotion. I noticed 120 hertz, and ever since I got my 16-inch MacBook Pro, that was the first device I got with 120 hertz ProMotion display. Yes, a 16-inch MacBook Pro, not an iPhone. I've never owned an iPad with ProMotion, primarily because the iPads I've had are all old and, well, I barely use them in the first place. But when I unboxed my 16-inch MacBook Pro, one of the first things I noticed was ProMotion, and it was so nice. However, I'm noticing a bit of things about my lifestyle that deal with ProMotion, and what is it? I don't get to experience it that often. ProMotion on my MacBook is only experienced when I am outside of this room, and that's because most of the time I just have my MacBook plugged into my two external monitors, which you guessed it, are just 1080p 60 hertz monitors because they were cheap. But man, that screen real estate is so nice. So considering that I still do most of my work with 60 hertz anyways, yeah, having 120 hertz on my smartphone was a nice luxury when I was browsing Twitter or such, but most of the time the display on that phone has actually been in 60 hertz mode, and that's because, well, I've got YouTube videos playing on it mostly, and last I checked, YouTube videos don't really play in 120 FPS. They typically play in 60 FPS, therefore the phone needs to stick in 60 hertz mode. So I wasn't even taking that much advantage of the 120 hertz hertz display other than just, scrolling through Twitter, which I watch YouTube videos more than I scroll through Twitter. So, okay. But just because I didn't use that feature that much, I do appreciate it. I do notice it. And yeah, going back to my XS Max, I do notice it's at 60 hertz and it has become a little painful in a sense. But considering that I'm used to 60 hertz while editing videos and doing a crap ton of scrolling through Safari and Twitter on my Mac because, well, yeah, 60 hertz monitors and such, I can get used to 60 hertz on my iPhone XS Max, and you know what? I have. Yes, I can still tell the difference when I pick up the two phones. I can still notice the difference between 60 hertz and 120 hertz, but I've learned to basically not care about it. I do notice it, but it's not that big of a deal breaker anymore. But that does not change the fact I'm still gonna miss it. I do appreciate smooth scrolling. But other than that, is there anything else about that phone I'm gonna miss as my daily driver? Honestly, no. I didn't like the new notch that they put on it. I never have. The squared off edges were so uncomfortable. The camera bump is so hideous. Oh, I can't say I am gonna miss the 2-day battery life on that. Yeah, that was nice, but I'm going to address the battery situation on my XS Max because, well, I would like to get it a new battery, actually. As soon as I figure out how I'm supposed to handle it, because at the moment, my closest Apple store is literally 6 hours away. So that means if I were to take my phone to an Apple store to get a battery swap, I have to drive down to either Milwaukee or Minneapolis. Yeah, that's how far away that Apple store is from me. Either drive down to Milwaukee or Minneapolis and then have them do the battery swap there. And by the time I do that, I'm going to be absolutely exhausted because 6 hours to get there, 6 hours back, that's 12 hours of driving. I'm better off just getting a hotel for the night. But oh wait, I forgot. I'm not all that rich. I can't afford a hotel room for the night. So we're not doing that. And I don't think Red Fox will be able to make the drive. I have lost a lot of faith in that car's ability to run. But anywho, it's time to talk about the final reason why I switched back to my XS Max. I never wanted to admit it, but I think I have to at this point. I think I'm addicted to my smartphone. Now you might be confused. The iPhone XS Max is my preferred phone over the 13 Pro Max. So how is going back to the XS Max going to fix your phone addiction problem? As confusing as it might sound, yeah, I know, it's confusing. Let me explain. At the moment, I have not done the battery swap yet, and I am going to look into doing that. But as of now, the battery does last me just fine, but that's if I'm still doing a typical light day of work and not doing heavy camera work. However, I want to improve my detachment abilities from my phone, and it's because I've noticed that quite often I'm on YouTube so much. Seriously, I think I have a bit of an unhealthy addiction to watching YouTube at this point. I don't actually watch it, I just have it in the background, but still, I kind of have it. I watch a little too much of it, and it's kind of gotten boring, but I keep wanting to go back because I'm addicted to YouTube at this point. Twitter, I don't have as much of a problem with, but I probably should get off of Twitter just a little bit more often. Though then again, Elon's been doing a good job at kind of ruining Twitter in a sense. He hasn't completely ruined it. Like, have some things that have actually improved. He has improved Twitter in some ways, but others, like the current layout of Twitter, I'm not liking how they broke it up into two different latest tweets and then home type tabs for the same home tab. It's confusing. I don't like Twitter's new layout. So much to the point that I actually mostly use Twitter on my Mac now. I kid you not. But even when I'm not scrolling through Twitter or scrolling through YouTube, quite often I find myself just scrolling between home pages. Like, I want an excuse to be on my phone, and that's not healthy. So because of that, now that I'm back on my XS Max, I don't feel like, well, there's new features that I have to figure out how to take advantage of. It's the same old features that I'm used to, so there's nothing to play around with. It's the same features that I use every day for work and such. There's nothing fancy about it. But also because the battery life is, well, it still gets me through the day, even with my smartphone addicted lifestyle at the moment. I would like to see how little battery I can use on that thing because, well, I need to get off my phone. Life is happening right now, and I've realized I just keep missing it. So much has been going on around me, and I've basically been glossing over it, and it's not a healthy lifestyle that I want to live. So, in part with having a not so good battery, it means I gotta get off my phone to preserve it, and when I get off my phone, I can appreciate life around me more often. I'll say that I do feel I'm better at getting off my phone than others, but I don't think I'm that good at getting off my phone than others. So because of that, I need to do this to push myself to live better. As backwards as it kind of seems, switching to my preferred phone over, well, a newer, better phone that in theory does everything that my old phone does plus more. I know, it's weird. This is one of the biggest reasons why I wanted to switch back. I'm too addicted to my phone and I need to get off of it. So switching back to my XS Max, as backwards as it sounds, I feel is going to help me with smartphone addiction, because the tech enthusiast in me is not going to be like, oh, it's just another iPhone. Well, okay, yeah, it's my dream iPhone, but I don't have to worry about finding that dream phone or testing out features and such. It's the phone I've known for 2.5 years at this point. I've owned it, but I haven't been using it that much for the past 6 months because, well, I have my 13 Pro Max for a little over 6 months at this point. But yeah, that's why I switched back to the XS Max, and I honestly find myself happier and living a better lifestyle. I feel less depressed, I feel more energetic, I feel more alive. It's the best way I can describe it, and that's why I switched back to the XS Max. And before I end off this video, Andrew Erickson, I have no clue if you're watching this, but if you happen to, you know what? Thank you for going back to that iPhone 10 and switching back. Because if someone like you, whose full-time job is YouTube, Drew, if you're watching this, thank you for switching back to that iPhone 10. And here's why. Drew is a full-time YouTuber. Like, YouTube is his actual job. That's how he pays his bills and such. However, he's felt like he's had an unhealthy lifestyle where he's also constantly on his phone. And for him to go back to his, well, phone that's even older than mine, he's daily driving an iPhone 10 at the moment versus a XS Max that I'm daily driving. The fact that he was able to convince himself to do it and yet still be a full-time YouTuber, and the fact that I think he's doing a great job in terms of improving his lifestyle, in terms of getting off his phone and living his life the way he wants to. I needed that encouragement. So, you know what, Drew? I need to thank you a lot. Go check out Talos of Tech if you haven't yet. Meanwhile, I still have 1,000 times less subscribers than he does. Oh, jeez. Anywho, enough rambling. Thank you for watching. Do me a favor and interact with the stuff below. My name is Alpha DeWolf, Random Alpha, signing out.